Didn't stop. Right, hello YouTube. I think that recording started, but I think it did. Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Now, last time I believe we managed a moon flyby in return successfully. We're continuing on our long-term goal of... quickly show off where we're trying to go for this campaign. Trying to build a colony ship. I liked the idea for this one. That was an interesting bug. I've never seen that one before. Temporary keyhole view of the Space Center. But yes, our long-term goal, in theory, is to try and build a colony ship to go out to Eeloo. Go as far away from the center of the Kerbal solar system as possible and put a decent colony on it. To do that, we're going to need funds, which I plan to get via the space tourism contracts. We're going to try and maybe build a space hotel or perhaps a space casino. Both of which are pretty difficult, so I'm not 100% sure on which we'll do yet. However, for the meantime, I believe for this particular mission, what we want to do is to do a moon orbit, I'm thinking. We could, yeah, we'll take that one. Transmit or recover some data from around the moon. So I think we'll try and, surface of the moon. No, not doing that one just yet. Try and build so that it can go out there, put itself into orbit around the moon, and then fly back and return. Now, I believe it's probably going to have to be manned. Because I don't, unless we've got better cores now. Because we were having trouble with our AI cores before because they didn't have SAS on them. So we couldn't actually stabilize our rockets, which meant they were nearly unflyable. I will check if that's changed. And can almost immediately tell you it... oh, maybe has. Oh, we've got the universal storage core. Actually, if that... oh, no, we don't have the... okay, no, that would have been an option, but I don't think we actually have the center of the storage rack to put them in. No, okay, so it's going to be manned. We'll stick with the Mark 1, because I don't believe we have fuel tanks large enough for the more advanced ones. We'll do our normal selection of science equipment for a single pod. We won't put the Science Junior on it this time, because last time it just burned up. Not burned up, sorry. It smashed on impact with the ground. Actually, we could. Actually, no, you know what? We could put it on, because we got through re-entry okay. And I realised later on we could have put a radial parachute on, so we'll maybe try that. We did still land okay. So what I'm thinking is if we then go... add a radial mounted chute on the side. That should still be covered by the bottom of the ship for re-entry. And should allow us to slow down even further and hopefully land this in one piece and bring back some science with it. Okay, so that's our core. That's what we'll be sending out there. I'm just going to check what number of ship we should be on. The tourist one. This will be the 06 Moona 3. After the unsuccessful Moona 2 probe and or Moona 1 probe. That you saw there, in fact I just realised I could use this to show you. This is a Delta V map of the Kerbal system, so this is telling us how much we'll need to get places. This has been the best one I've found, because it will actually tell you not only how much you need to come back, as well as to go there, but it also gives you a range, because the Delta V maps that you see most of the time, I believe, are an average. And sometimes you will get a worse intercept than the average, and I do not know enough about the mechanics of space travel to get the lower one. I'm relying on MechJeb to find me something good. So we're going to want... needs about 3,000 to get to... 3,300 to get to low orbit. I'm going to buff that up to 4,000 to give us a bit of wiggle room. About 800 to get there, to intercept the moon. About 310 to orbit. At low orbit, we might be a bit higher than that. And then we'll need some to get back. So I'm going for roughly 4,000, 5,000, 500. We're going to go for maybe 6,200, which might be a bit overbuilt, but it should ensure we get back okay. So we'll then want a decoupler. Assuming we can manage that with the parts we have. I believe we got some new components available now. Yes, we did. Do we have... no, we do not. Okay. So we shall go for this. Go for a Terrier. That should be our vacuum stage. Yeah, that's about 2,000. What I might even do is make that a little bit bigger. Try and get that to 6,200, and I can just put 4K. Yeah, and then we'll try and get 4K Delta V beneath this. That should do good for our mission. Also going to add a battery or two on this stage. We'll clip it into the body a little bit to reduce drag a little. There we go. Merge them in, make them look nice. And that is just to make sure we have enough battery to get to the moon and back. We don't have any generators yet, so at the moment we're entirely reliant on battery power for this mission. Right, now we need 4,000. We need to get this thing to orbit. So for maybe 3 of these. If you're wondering how I'm telling how many I'm going to need, it's purely intuition at this point. I've done a lot of rockets. I'm just like, this should be about right. Okay, that's 1,700, and we've got good thrust to weight, so that's fine for that stage. The rest is going to have to be solids, I think. Unless we have any bigger engines. Oh, we do have a liquid hydrogen rocket. So this is a slightly different type of fuel that works a little bit differently. The main disadvantage of liquid hydrogen as a propellant, oh, we do have a really big one as well, actually, is that it will effectively boil off. Basically, it means if the fuel gets too hot, which is like, by hot I mean like minus like a few hundred probably, or like maybe 100. It will literally boil off and leak through the sides of the tanks and escape, basically. Or not necessarily leak, but become useless gas instead of the liquid it needs to be. So, basically, if you don't keep the tanks powered, they will leak, effectively. Over time, you will lose a good deal of your fuel. But they do tend to have quite good performance and be a bit more expensive. It's quite an expensive engine, actually, that one. For example, the LTV-30 is only 1,100 as opposed to 7,500. Has 265 efficiency in the atmosphere, 310 in space, and about 200 thrust. That big Erebus costs 7,500, has about 370 efficiency in atmosphere and 430 in space, which is very good for a conventional rocket. It has about 400 to 500 thrust. So the Erebus could be an option, potentially. It's also a bit bigger than our current stages, actually, which makes it a bit awkward. What about the other one, which was the Vesuvius? Efficient, but about the same power as the 30. So potentially might do more on the same space. We could try quickly fitting that and see what we're looking at performance-wise. You might notice it's gone to nothing. That's because we're running the wrong fuel type. We need, I believe, LH2 oxidizer. This fuel switching thing is not in the base game. This is something the mods have added. We're actually getting a bit worse performance. The other thing with these engines is, while they're more efficient, the fuel is not as dense. So you actually don't get quite as much at the same tank size. Now, tanks specialised to carry it are lighter usually. Because they could be these big sort of lightweight girder frame tanks. Or foil tanks even. But in this case, we're better sticking to our current fuel than the LTV-30. That at the moment gives us about 6,000, which is a little under what I'd like. But there is something we could potentially do here. The wobble is going to be a bit real, but we'll try it. Go up to 6,300. That is about what we were hoping for. And we're over the part limit. Okay. Oh, what can we do about this? We could reduce the number of batteries, perhaps. Just one. I might actually put on the top stage. Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll just be very careful not to waste our battery on turns we don't need to do. Oh, wait, no. That's not going to work on its own, because we're going to need to put nose cones on these, or we're going to be very unaerodynamic. Although we could just do that. It's not ideal, but it will work to some degree. No, it won't work, because we need, I just realised as well, we're going to need fins. We don't have any way of steering this rocket at the moment, because the LTV-30 is quite powerful and efficient for its weight and size and everything, but it has no thrust gimbal. You cannot, it does not turn. So in fact, what we might have to do is make some more upgrades. We'll see what it would cost us to upgrade the building. Because at the moment we're a little limited by some of our technology. Yeah, I think we'll do our level 2 assembly building. We go from 30 parts to 255. And action groups available, which will make doing certain things a bit easier. And now we'll be able to build a heavier lower stage. What I might even do, because the fins are going to be in the way, is fit another stage underneath the current one with the solids on it. Or maybe even try 5 rather than 6. I'll sort of show you what I mean by that in a sec. And one of those there. And, oh, actually, how much do we get out of 3? Is that enough? No. Okay, 4. 5. Yeah, okay. I think that'll... Actually, how much do these cost? You know, they're not very much. So the nice thing with solid rocket boosters, they are cheap. It isn't a bad idea to use them for things like this. Tell you what, we might actually go... might actually go to lag spike, apparently. Let's put the 6 fins on these, and then 4 these ones up here. No, 4, not 3. You can get away with 3, but they seem to be a little unreliable. So I tend to prefer to go for 4 if we can. All of those, yeah. Let's check your staging. So, solid rocket boosters on the bottom, check. Coupler, check. Liquid rocket, check. Coupler, check. Main engine, check. And then decoupling the rest. Looks like we are good to go. Crew. I think Jeb went on the last moon mission, so we'll send Valentina for this one. Bad DXP. Now we're getting to the point where our rocket's getting quite big. Which is a little awkward for when it's sitting on the launch pad. I'd like to be able to fit it with launch stabilizers, basically clamps to hold it in place on the launch pad, and I'd like to be able to brace these boosters properly. So we're going to try and take construction as the next technology. I can't think what it's called, but it's the next construction one. That will give us struts, which are, again, beams that can brace our craft and stop it flexing as much. And it will give us, again, launch clamps. Which will stop our rocket from falling over or breaking under its own weight on the launch pad, which is an issue you might face. We are not technically building very big yet. Sorry, coughing away this morning. I don't know why it's so bad today. Okay. 3, 2, 1, launch. No problem at all. Launching as expected. We're getting gravity. Turn. Oh boy. We're getting flex. That's not good. That's the other thing. At the moment, because we have quite small tanks, we're having to stack them a bit. The game does not really like stacking tanks. They don't tend to be the most solid. Believe me, this is an improvement over what the game used to be like. Now, it's being made worse because we have quite a powerful booster on the bottom left of us at the moment. There's about to be less of a problem. Alright, I think we're okay now. The very high acceleration has calmed down. In fact, we can actually cut the throttle there because we're already good to go for orbit. We'll wait until we're out of atmosphere and then we'll create our maneuver node to circularize, as we've done before. Hey, that looks like that's come out okay. You tend to want to go, when you launch, this is a general rule, you want to tilt to the right. D on your keyboard, you want to tilt to the right, and you want to try and follow this line to about 45 degrees. That will usually give you a fairly good orbit. Now, again, we've slightly scuffed it. I believe it's something to do with the way the planet's rotating. You get a bit of free energy, which is why you want to go that way specifically, and also because everything else is on a horizontal plane related to you, or basically horizontal. It just sort of works out better. Hey, we are in space. Go for maneuver. We have to keep a little bit of an eye on our battery. We're doing okay at the moment. You see this little number here, the 0.2 on the right of the battery thing at the top? That is how much power we're draining, basically. I think if it goes negative, that's generating power. So solar panels would do that. Radiothermal generators would do that. Nuclear plants would do that. Fusion plants, solar panels. There's I think I said solar panels already. There's a lot of things. Even some engines will have an alternator built into them that will actually generate electricity while they're running. So sometimes if you're completely out and you need to kickstart to, say, just deploy a solar panel, you can actually run your engines for a short pulse, although be careful it doesn't throw you off too far, obviously. But yes, you can actually turn your engine up very slightly and then just quickly deploy the panel. Because I believe if you've got a crewman on board, you can still throttle your engine even if the rest of your craft's out of power. Oh, we are going to need the next stage, a little bit of it. So utilities, auto stage up to stage 2. Yep, that is correct. As mentioned last time, if your maneuver would go through a stage, there'll be a little white line. If you're going to run out of fuel, it'll go red, although sometimes it will still read that even when you're not going to. It's a little bit weird. It's burning through space. Things are currently looking pretty good. I'm going to say I believe I should be able to see the moon somewhere, but with the glare I'm getting in real life on my screen, I don't think that's happening at the moment. But that's where we're headed. I said we did a flyby before, but this time we're going to have to actually orbit it. Which is pretty easy. I can show you a pretty... well, I'm going to show you a pretty reliable method of both getting to the... getting to a new planet and then... well, new moon at least, then orbiting it. And yes, it is 90% autopilot, but knowing what maneuvers to make on the autopilot is obviously helpful. Can open up the doors on our science equipment. Not that we're going to use them just yet, but... although we could, there is still some science to do in orbit, it's even telling us. We could do a materials study here, but we want to take it out to the moon. We tried to do that before and we didn't manage to recover it, so... we're going to try and get close to the moon this time, into low orbit. And get the reading from there. That should be worth quite a bit. At least compared to what we've been making in so far. But the odd thrust effect on the engine, but there we go. Okay. We are in a nice, stable, roughly circular orbit. So, getting to the moon with MechJeb. Once you're in orbit, set the moon as your target. Go to your maneuver planner and set by impulse home and transfer to orbit. I don't know if these make much of a difference. I've never used them particularly. Crit node. Double check what it's given you. And you'll see it has given us a burn that will give us an encounter with the moon. So that's all good. Execute next node. And MechJeb will point you towards the direction you need to be going, and it will automatically time warp you, which, yes, saves a lot of effort doing it manually. And it'll basically fly this next bit for us. Again, a lot of the sort of space transfers and things I'm perfectly happy to let MechJeb do like this. I could do it manually to some degree. It's fiddlier and less efficient. But honestly, I just prefer to let the autopilot take me places and have more fun either with the building or with the more manual bits of the mission, or just even just successfully completing a mission in the first place. Alright, and we're burning. 1 minute burn roughly, not too bad. Should take us out there without too much difficulty. Valentina seems to be enjoying herself. Yeah. See her chilling out there. I'm not sure if she's got one eye going forward to one to the side, or is the front of her face just there? I'm not sure, but... we can actually switch to her view as well, I believe, if we press... no, not V. C. Yes. We do actually have a little cockpit view. Not every modded cockpit in the game will have a cockpit interior. But a good chunk of them do. If you have other Kerbals, you can actually see them. Food, not food, air and parts, I see. More science. Board games, snacks, science tools, laundry, toothbrushes. There's a big drawer for toothbrushes. Various indicators. I think some of these buttons actually do work. You can see the nav globe. Our actual view doesn't tell us much, but we can see we're in space. Likewise, I'm not entirely sure what this does. Got our altimeter as well. Okay, we have completed our burn, and yes, we're indeed going to encounter the moon. Time warp time. So, once we get to the moon's encounter, we're going to want to slow down, quickly stop the time warp, and we're going to need to make a maneuver fairly speedily. Depending on exactly how this maneuver's come out. Yeah, so at the moment, we're going to smash into the moon's surface. We don't want that. So what we want to do is change periaps, change the lowest point of our orbit. In this case, for the moon, we're going to go low orbit, so 15 kilometers should be fine for that. And rather than the next apoapse, because that's too late, and we don't even have a proper apoapse, we're going to do after a fixed time of 60 seconds. That gives us a few moments for the rocket to rotate itself around to where it needs to be. I usually find it's best to give it a short delay, because if you try to do it instantly, if you've got a big rocket that's slow to turn, you might not have time for it to actually spin around, and you've usually got a little bit of time before you're actually going to hit it, unless you're coming in very fast. The only thing is, at the moment, I don't know about you, but I can't see a damn thing. I don't know. I think we might be in a bit of the moon's shadow prep. Yeah, we're actually being... The moon is actually eclipsing the sun at the moment. I'm not even sure where it's meant to be. I think it's here. Okay, so now that we're going to miss the moon, we can now do circularize at next periaps and create and execute. And you'll probably notice when we actually get to the periaps that maneuver node is on top of retrograde, because that's usually how you circularize. You point retrograde and burn once you're at roughly the altitude you want to be at, and that will bring your apoapse down. Or in this case, make it so that it's no longer escaping the moon and flying back out into this orbit, this yellow one, but actually, well, staying in orbit around the moon. Hey, we can actually see now. Yeah, and we're quite near the moon's surface. Like I say, we're bringing it in quite low this time. See the moon loading in as we get closer. Now, the moon, strangely enough, is actually probably not the first place we'll be landing, because Kerbin, the home planet, actually has 2 moons, and the outer moon, Minmus, is actually a lot friendlier to land on. It might be a bit further away, it takes a little more fuel to get there, but once you're there, it's infinitely easier to do stuff with. While I struggle to land manually on most planets, Minmus is one I could do. And there's another good reason for that aside from the low gravity, but we'll get to that a little later on. So, science. Oh, and if you could stabilize, please. Our battery is still okay. Now just stop us spinning, because that would drain too much battery. So, mystery goo. Seems to be less dense here. That's about the same. Again, unfortunately, the base game science readings are not the most interesting. Yep, stored a vacuum. I probably should have installed the mod that actually updates these to be a bit more interesting, but I totally forgot about that one. You look at the surface of the moon and try to find a good landing space. The inside of the craters might be the best option. It might be. They're also not particularly flat, but they're a little better. And a mystery goo bay. Yeah, same as before, the high radiation environment caused a few of the samples to glow. It looks like it'd be fun to paint the rocket with this. Now, the painting the rocket bit might be fine. The radiation poisoning afterwards, probably not so much. Right. We're good. We are done here. We needed to put it into orbit. Well, we actually didn't need to have a contract for that, but we've got a world first for it. Now we want to return from the moon. And we're going to drop straight into the atmosphere if we can. Create and execute. And that'll create a burn that will drop us... Yeah, return from the moon seems a bit iffy in terms of actually giving you the right altitude, but it is going to take us out of the moon's sphere of influence at least, so... and as you see, we've actually ended up with a lot of spare Delta V that we didn't need, and that's fine. It is not... Unless your budget is tight, it isn't an issue to overbuild your rockets. You'll usually find you're much happier having accidentally overbuilt and ended up with more fuel to come back with than underbuilt and running out midway. I'd always recommend overbuilding rather than risking underbuilding. Fortunately, space is very dark, so at the moment all I can see is pretty much just the engine glow. Not helped by the fact, again, it's glaring a bit on my screen in real life. Curse you, sun. You bring us life and cause us problems at the same time. Well, it looks like we're going to drop pretty much straight into re-entry. On the daylight side, though, which is good. So we'll just stick with that. We could adjust it to bring it down and make it a little bit less risky, but I think we'll be okay. We'll quick save anyway, just in case. Oh, we're going to drop on the dark side. Oh, boy. Okay. Now we can use something here to make our re-entry a little bit more controlled. Warp helper. This will basically time warp us to a set point that we can select. So we're going to go atmospheric entry. We've got 40 seconds of fuel left. So give us a 30-second leeway. We'll point retrograde. And what this will do, basically, 30 seconds before we would re-enter the atmosphere, we'll drop out of warp. Valentina should point the craft backwards, and we can burn our engines. And it will basically slow us down and help us bleed off some speed last second. Again, unfortunately, at the moment, I can't see anything, which is very annoying. Oh, okay, lost SAS, but that's fine. We'll be able to see something in a bit, because it'll flare out of re-entry. What I might even do is quickly pause the recording and... yeah, I'm going to quickly pause the recording and shut my blinds, because I can't see anything either. You'll probably have a better view of it than me, but... yeah, one moment. Well, shutting the curtains didn't help much, but I found an option for ambient light boost, which I've turned up to about 40%, and that seems to be a little bit better. Oh, we should have the engine running. Yeah, we're having it a little faster than 3000, which again is usually a little too quick. So we're going to bleed off some speed with what fuel we have left. Let's make our re-entry a little more survivable. Oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't do a spacewalk at low orbit. We could have had a bit more science, or I think we did a crew report. Yeah, okay, we did do a crew report. Don't override that. Bit late to do a spacewalk now. Yeah, and that's starting to happen. That's the point where you don't get out of the rocket. Not that you can't surf to re-entry on a seat strapped to a heat shield. I've seen it done. It is hilarious, but not traditionally what I would call the good idea. Okay. Oh, I thought that was about to explode there, but we got away with it somehow. Should not have been good. Heat shield's getting spicy. Spin a bit and bleed off a little bit of heat. Again, for some reason, spinning does seem to drive off the heat a bit. I don't know if it's because it's keeping one side on the slightly cooler side of things. I do not know. Right, how far above the actual ground are we? I think we might be above water, actually. Probably find out when we hit it, I imagine, at this rate. No, we are above land, I think. We have 2 shoots this time to hopefully stop this smashing on impact. Which was what happened before. Let's save us a little bit of landing time and set the opening altitude down to 650. I'm pretty sure in real life you can't just do that. I think it's an actual property of the parachute, but hey ho. In this we can. Time off a little bit. Sending towards the surface. At least I think it's the surface. And we're going to slow down now that we're getting near the bottom. If we time warp too fast, there's a chance we'll smash it to the ground before we've had a chance to slow down properly. Okay, we want to be going a bit slower than last time. That's looking alright. And I tell you what, we'll ditch the heat shield, because again, those are heavy. And we just lost another couple of meters a second of speed. And sometimes you might want to leave something like that on, because again, the heat shield is quite a tough component. Well, there's the moon. Over there. But in this case, again, we'll shed it, try and save even more weight off the capsule, and hopefully land in one piece. I don't think they're tremendously valuable components, so you don't get much extra recovery money for bringing the heat shield back. Or at least not enough to make it worth it anyway. If it would smash something more valuable, like our science container. Hey! Gentle touchdown, our recover vessel. We'll try and keep our missions to daylight as much as we can, because again, YouTube, a little bit hard to see things, which is kind of the whole point. Yes, let's see what we brought back. Okay, wow. 196 science from that mission. Very nice. So we've got 230 now. A little bit of money. Not a huge amount. I don't believe, although we'll have a bit from the contract. Valentina's gained 1 experience. And yes, we did a world first, which gave us some money. Paid for the mission anyway, and the contract. So did quite well there. We'll probably call it there for that particular this particular recording. Hopefully you've all enjoyed. I should mention I am a games developer as well as a reviewer or let's player or whatever. So if you want to support the channel, go check out the links in the description. There's a couple of games that I've made, including one release coming out very soon, a couple of days in fact. Although I say a couple of days, that's a couple of days at time of recording, so probably like 20 days ago at time of this video actually going up. But anyway, go check it out. You might like it. Bye bye for now.